I caught her sneaking out of my apartment at 2 a.m. My safe was open and $7,800 was missing. She glared and said, "I'm family. That means you owe me." I just nodded. But when she came back days later, someone was waiting for her inside, and it wasn't me. My name is Samantha. I'm 31. I'm the older child who never made a scene. The one who showed up with jumper cables, moved couches up 3 flights, brought soup when everyone else brought opinions. If there's a family role called background support, that was me. I paid my own way through school, built a steady life in a small 1 bedroom that I keep too clean, and I'm the woman who keeps spare batteries and extra keys because someone always forgets something. My parents, kind in public, sharp, and private. My dad talks about responsibility like it's a religion. My mom believes in appearances, and my sister Tessa, 2 years younger, is the child they keep turning toward. She has potential. Mom says she just needs a little help. Dad adds for a decade. A little help meant my time, my car, my weekends, then my money. Tessa is beautiful and magnetic. She floats into rooms late with a story that makes everyone laugh. She also forgets bills, misplaces rent, and swears every new boyfriend is the one until he isn't. I get called after the endings. I show up. That's the loop. I'm a property tech. The woman buildings call when pipes cry or doors won't shut. I like order. I like knowing the tools are exactly where I left them. I keep a small safe in my closet for paperwork and planned debts. The kind you choose on purpose, like certification fees and the deposit I'd been saving for a work van upgrade. It's not flashy, it's just mine. We still do family dinners. I still bring dessert. The last one before everything broke started normal. Roast chicken. Muted TV in the background. Dad evaluating headlines like he owns the station. Tessa breezed in 40 minutes late wearing sunglasses at 7 p.m. She hugged Mom, hugged Dad, then dropped her toad on my lap like I was an end table. "Be a good sister," Mom said lightly. The way someone says pass the salt, she's under a lot of pressure. Tessa leaned in. "I might crash on your couch for a bit. My landlord is being dramatic." I kept my voice even. "I'm working early. Couch isn't an option." Her smile thinned. So unwelcoming. Dad speared a carrot. "Learn generosity. Samantha family first." I swallowed it. I always do. I washed dishes after, dried my hands in their 2 white kitchen and listened to Tessa in the hall, telling Mom she owes me. She knows she owes me. That night back at my place, I set my keys on the dish, checked the bolt twice, and tried to sleep. At 2:07 a.m., a soft scrape woke me, not a bang. A whisper of metal on metal near my front door. I lay still, heart loud, and heard my bedroom hinge breathe like someone had practiced opening it in slow motion. Somewhere in the dark, something that should have been still made the smallest sound, like a dial that had just stopped turning. Morning makes everything look reasonable. I told myself I dreamed the scrape that older apartments talk at night. I showered, packed my tool bag, and made coffee strong enough to stand up by itself. But when I slid my closet door open, the safe wasn't sitting square to the back wall. It was turned a few degrees like a chair pushed back from a table. My fingers knew before my brain did. I crouched, touched the dial, and felt the chill of wrong. I spun it to my sequence. It didn't resist. The handle dropped easily. The door opened. Receipts, folders, the blue envelope where I'd been stacking cash when side jobs paid in bills. I counted with numb hands. $7,800. Gone. I stood there breathing through that hollow, dumb heat you get when something unfair lands perfectly on target. My apartment was quiet. My front door was still locked. The chain hung exactly where I left it. There was no mess. Whoever did this wasn't a stranger. Whoever did this knew the numbers or knew me well enough to guess them. I closed the safe and sat on the floor. I didn't call the police. Not then. I put my palms on the carpet and let the anger move through and pass me until it settled into that familiar low hum I carry around my family. Then I made eggs because eating keeps your brain from making stupid promises, and I went to work. If you want the long version of how we got here, it starts years back with small withdrawals. That didn't look like theft because they came with please and thank you. When Tessa turned 18, my parents paid her first month's rent on a studio and asked me to co-sign just in case. When she totaled a borrowed car texting through a light, Dad sat her down to teach a lesson and then asked if I could pick up the difference on the insurance increase until she finds her footing. When she forgot tuition deadlines, Mom cried, then put me on speaker and said, "Just cover this term. You're good with money. It was always bridge money." Bridges to nowhere. I worked 2 jobs in my early 20s. I did game nights in, packed lunches, no vacations, while Tessa posted rooftop cocktails with captions about manifesting. I drove her to interviews, wrote her first resume, waited in a lobby while she cried in a bathroom after being told she didn't have enough experience for a receptionist role. I didn't resent it then. I thought that's what older sisters do. The humiliations were small but precise. Christmas when I was 25, there were 12 gifts for Tessa, 2 for me, and one of mine was a self-help book about stepping into leadership. At Dad's birthday, Tessa arrived without a present, and Mom clapped anyway because her presence was the real gift. When I got my certification, I texted the family. Tessa replied 4 days later with a thumbs up. Mom wrote, "Proud of you, honey," and then asked if I could help her research payment plans for Tessa's veneers. I kept paying for the family phone plan because switching would confuse your father. I kept spot covering Tessa's utilities because they'll shut it off. Samantha and Mom's voice as a way of turning requests into emergencies. I kept showing up when Tessa's dramas hit a wall and she needed a car ride, a couch, a locksmith, a witness to tell her that wasn't love. The first time I said no was this spring. Tessa called at 11:41 p.m. "I'm short on rent, just a little." "How much is a little?" "Like 800, she said quickly. Like speed would make it smaller. "I can't," I said. Silence. Then flat. "You won't." "I can't," I repeated. "I'm saving for the van. I told you. You're obsessed with that stupid van. It's not stupid. It's my work." Click. 3 days later, Mom called. "Your sister is going through a rough patch." "Don't abandon family over a vehicle." "Mom," I said, "I've covered rough patches for 6 years." "It's different this time," she said. "She's serious about changing." "Is she in a program?" "Don't be cruel." The stakes kept ratcheting up. A week after that, I caught Tessa on my building steps at midnight, arguing with a guy in a hoodie. "Give me 2 days," she hissed. He turned and looked at me like I was the ATM. She introduced him as a friend. I nodded and went upstairs with my jaw tight enough to hum. The keys were a whole subplot. Years ago, I gave Tessa a spare when she had that awful landlord who'd lock people out for being late. I forgot I'd given it. She never returned it. Last fall, when she stayed here 3 nights after a breakup, she watched me spin the safe. I didn't think about it. How many times do you let someone watch your hands move because you don't believe those hands could hurt you? After the missing cash morning, I drove to my parents' house because that's what my panic does. Tessa's car was in this driveway. I walked in without knocking like always. Mom was wiping a perfectly clean counter. Dad was pretending to read. Tessa stood in the kitchen drinking my favorite coffee from one of their mugs. She looked at me without blinking. "You look tired," she said. "Someone took $700-800 from my safe last night." I said, keeping my voice as gentle as I could, like I was reporting a leak. Dad set the paper down. Mom's mouth made a small circle. Tessa didn't flinch. "That tone is aggressive, Samantha. I'm being clear," I said. "Maybe you misplaced it," Mom offered. "In a bolted safe," I said. Dad folded his arms. "Why are you keeping that kind of cash around?" "Because the van dealer gives a discount for cash," I said. Tessa sipped. "You're fine. You always land on your feet." My throat went dry. "Do you know anything about it?" She stared at me like I was a stranger in her seat. "I'm family," she said slowly, like I was hard of hearing. "That means you owe me." It was so absurd I almost laughed. Mom's chin lifted like the queen backing a decree. Dad didn't meet my eyes. I nodded once. That was our old dance. Nod, swallow, solve. I walked outside and sat in my truck with both hands on the wheel until the urge to drive into the river passed. Then I drove to the building office where I work part-time and asked Miguel, the super, if he could help me change my locks immediately. He looked at my face and didn't ask questions. We changed the cylinder, installed reinforced plates, and I added a silent, no-drama door sensor that pings my phone if it opens between midnight and 5 a.m. I also called Jess. Jess is the calmest person I know. We met on a 3 a.m. flood job in a basement where a hot water tank decided to die loudly. She's a patrol officer, off-duty friend, On-duty rule book. No theatrics, no sugar. I told her everything in one breath. She listened until I ran out of oxygen. Report it, she said. They're my family. So is your future, she said. You can decide not to press charges, but document it, and don't be alone next time. I filed a report. I gave details that made my throat burn. I didn't say Tessa's name. I said a person with access. Then I waited for the next ask because there's always a next ask. It came with balloons. That's what made it surreal. Mom texted on a Friday. Family brunch. Sunday. Mandatory. She added 3 cake emojis. I didn't reply. On Sunday at 11:02 a.m., I walked into their living room and found a cake on the coffee table that said, "Congrats, Tessa," in blue icing. No one said what the congrats were for. A job, a new lease, a miracle. Tessa was radiant in a way I recognize now. The glow of someone who believes consequences have been canceled again. She hugged me like nothing had happened and whispered, "You look less stressed." "See, my timing helped," I said. I stared at the icing. "Help me how?" "Lightening your load," she said and laughed. Dad laughed too, like this was sophisticated humor. We did brunch. We did the script. Mom complimented Tessa's resilience. Dad congratulated her fresh start, and I sat there counting breaths and forks. Halfway through a second slice, Mom cleared her throat. "So," she said, cheerful and brittle, "Tessa has an opportunity. A friend of a friend can get her into a special program if she has a small lump sum to register. It's only $8,000. She looked at me on the word "only" like I might leap to my feet and salute. I put my fork down. No silence. Dad narrowed his eyes. "You didn't even let us finish." "I finished for you," I said. "No." Tessa's smile flattened. "You're being dramatic," I said. "No," I repeated, voice steady. "You're punishing me," Mom hissed. "I'm protecting me," I said. Dad leaned forward, elbows on knees. "You're making a scene in your mother's house." I looked at the cake, then at my hands. I didn't bring the scene. Tessa stood. "You think you're better, don't you?" "No," I said. "I think I'm done." She scoffed. "After everything I've done for you." I laughed once. "Name 3. Her face went blank, then angry. "I'm your sister. That's the list." I reached into my pocket and set a small envelope on the table. Inside were 4 neat copies of something Jess had helped me draft. A simple boundary letter. No threats, no drama, just lines. Dad didn't touch it. Mom did, with 2 fingers like it might stain. She read. Her lips moved. "What is this nonsense?" she said. "It's not nonsense," I said. "It's notice. New rules." I kept my voice low because I didn't want to give them a volume excuse. I won't lend money to Tessa. I won't co-sign. I won't provide housing. I won't answer calls after 9 p.m. I won't discuss my finances. If anyone uses a key to enter my apartment without my consent, I will call the police. If anyone contacts my employer, I will file for harassment. If anyone shows up at my home uninvited, I won't open the door. Mom's face flushed. "How dare you bring legal threats in a family?" "It's not a threat," I said. "It's a boundary." Dad pointed at me. "You're ungrateful." "Maybe," I said, shrugging. "But I'm also done." Tessa's eyes were wet, not with apology, but with fury that her usual magic wasn't working. "You can't cut me off. I need you." "I know," I said. "That's the problem." She drew a breath like she'd dive off a cliff. "I'll make you regret this." I looked at her for a long second. "Tess," I said softly, "this isn't about revenge. This is about closure." Mom slammed the letter down. Dad muttered something about disgrace. I stood, thanked them for brunch like a lunatic in a sitcom, and walked out while Tessa shouted my name like it was a command word that should still open doors. 2 nights later, my phone vibrated at 2:11 a.m. Front door open. The sensor pinged, then held. I was sleeping at Jess's because she'd said, "Don't be a hero, be boring." We were both fully awake in 1 second. "Call it in," she said. We drove in separate cars to keep it clean. Miguel met Jess at the lobby door with his master key and a face I'll never forget. "She's upstairs," he whispered like the building could overhear. Jess went first. She didn't pull her weapon. She didn't need theater. She knocked my door loud and official, then used Miguel's key. I waited in the hall at the stairwell corner. I could hear Jess's voice through the open space. "Come, even police," she said. "Announce yourself." A drawer slid, a whisper curse, a clink like a picture frame meeting the floor. Then Tessa's voice, tight and high. This is my sister's place. Your ID? Jess asked, "What?" "She knows me," Tessa said, as if that were handcuffs opposite. "Your ID," Jess repeated. There was rustle, then the thunk of her tote. Jess's voice cooled by 1 degree. "Put the bag down." "I'm not stealing," Tessa snapped. "I'm taking what I'm owed." "You're trespassing," Jess said, "and you've been warned." They were 10 feet from me, one thin wall away. I pressed my back to the cinder block and stared at the paint while their words drew lines in the air. "Where is she?" Tessa demanded. "She set me up. I'm here," Jess said. "That's enough." "Call her," Tessa said. "Call her now." "I did," Jess replied. "She declined." I didn't step in. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. Not rush to fix, not rush to explain, not rush to take my sister's shaking hands and make her stop shaking by absorbing the tremor. Jess gave her the paper copy of the boundary letter from Sunday. "You've been served notice," she said. "Leave now. Do not return. If you return, we'll escalate." "You can't do this," Tessa said, but the edge was gone. She sounded small, dazed, like the room had stopped obeying her. "Keys," Jess said. "All copies." There was a pause, then the clatter of metal on wood. 1, 2, 3. "Good," Jess said. "Go home." A minute later, the hallway filled with the smell of my own apartment. Jess stepped out with the keys in her hand and met my eyes around the corner. She didn't smile. She wasn't proud of the win because it wasn't a win. It was a door closing. "I didn't charge her," Jess said softly. "I documented the trespass one more time and there's no discretion left." "Thank you," I said. Miguel squeezed my shoulder. "You change your codes again today?" "I will," I said. I went inside after they left. The safe was closed. The pictures were crooked. The blue envelope was still thinner than it should be. I sat on the floor again and felt nothing for a full minute, which is how grief looks when it's wearing work clothes. I texted Tessa one sentence. "Do not contact me." The 3 dots bubbled, then disappeared, then bubbled again. Nothing came through. I turned my phone face down and slept on top of the covers until sun. If you've ever rearranged a room you've lived in for years, you know how your body still reaches for the old drawer for weeks. Boundaries are like that. For 3 mornings, I found myself half listening for Tessa's knock, half waiting for Mom's guilt voicemail, half composing explanations I didn't know. They didn't disappoint. The first day, 12 missed calls. 4 from Mom, 3 from Dad, 5 from numbers I didn't recognize. 2 voicemails from Mom, both variations of, "This family is not a courtroom." Samantha Dad texted a paragraph about shame and duty. Tessa sent nothing, which was louder than any message. The second day, my aunt wrote a long Facebook post about how some people forget who held them as babies, complete with a photo of toddler me on her lap. 10 cousins liked it. I didn't respond. Jess texted, "Don't scroll." I put my phone in the freezer for 10 minutes like a teenager. It helped. On day 3, Tessa broke the silence with a single text. "You made this ugly." I typed and erased 4 versions of a reply and sent none. 10 minutes later, another. "You think boundaries make you better? They just make you alone." I set my phone down and washed dishes like a person in a commercial. The sink hissed. The plate squeaked. A robin sat on the fire escape like a cliché. That evening, Mom called 14 times in an hour. The 15th was a video call. I let it ring. She followed with a message. "We're coming over to talk this out." I texted back the same sentence I'd sent Tessa. "Do not contact me." 3 dots then. "How dare you?" I didn't answer. There's a weird freedom in ignoring noise that used to be law. The next morning, I woke up an hour before my alarm and made oatmeal with sliced apples like the sleep apps recommend. I opened my laptop and finally registered for the van auction I'd been stalking for months. The number in my account was smaller than it should be. The goalpost looked too far. I added 3 side jobs to my week. I told my body, "We will be okay." Out loud, standing alone in my clean kitchen with my bowl steaming like hope. Work got brighter, pipes still cried, and doors still sulked. But I wasn't dragging a family battlefield into each room. Miguel raised an eyebrow at the new locks I installed on my own place. "Fort Knox," he said. "Fort me," I said. We both snorted. On Saturday, Dad was waiting at my truck after a repair call, hands in pockets like a cop in a movie. "We raised you better than this," he said without hello. "Then what?" I asked. "Then abandoning your sister." "I didn't abandon her," I said. "I stopped funding her." He stepped closer. You embarrassed your mother. Jess humiliated your sister in front of the neighbors. She enforced the law. I asked her to. You asked a stranger to police your home against family, Dad said. That's what police are for, I said softly. His eyes hardened. She's blood. So am I said. I bleed too. He tried another angle. If your sister goes under, that's on you. No, I said. That's on choices. He shook his head like I was a slow student and walked away. On Sunday, I didn't go to dinner. Mom sent a photo of an empty chair. Tessa posted an Instagram story with a song about betrayal that 12 friends hearted. My cousin Jacob texted, "You okay? Need an alibi for a fake trip to Alaska?" I smiled at my phone and wrote, "I'm good." Then I set the phone face down again. Monday morning, the door sensor pinged at 8:03 a.m. I was home. Daytime safe. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't Tessa. It was a woman in a charcoal blazer with a messenger bag. She held up a card to the peephole like she could see me. Process server, I read her lips. I opened the door a slice. Samantha Miller, yes. She handed me a manila envelope. You've been notified. I signed. I closed the door. I leaned against it and laughed once. A dry, no air sound, because of course. Inside was a handwritten letter from Mom, not legal papers. We love you. Stop this nonsense and we can fix it. Family counseling Tuesday at 6 o'clock. She also tucked in a photocopy of a flyer for a program Tessa was supposedly starting. It had the word transformation in a font that made my teeth itch. I folded the letter and set it in a drawer I don't open often. Then I taped my boundary letter inside the coat closet. I leveled like a fire escape map. The next time the sensor pinged at night, it was only the wind pushing the door gently against the new weather strip. I still woke up heart fast, but I breathed through it and slept again. That felt like a miracle, trusting wood and screws I'd tightened with my own hands. Life got quiet in the best possible ways. Coffee that tasted like coffee. A desk that stayed where I left it. My name not lighting up on a group thread unless I started it. I learned yoga from a video where a woman with a ponytail said, "Soften your jaw," which made me realize my jaw had been the star of a one-woman play for 10 years. The only real noise came a week later when Tessa texted, "I'm outside." I looked through the peephole. She was arms wrapped around herself, mascara and weather. Twice I almost opened. I didn't. I set my phone on the doormat inside the door where she could hear it buzz and typed, "I won't open. Call a hotline or Mom, not me." She stared at the door like she could burn through it. Then she left. I stood there listening to my own breathing until my ribs stopped feeling like thin glass. That night, the blue envelope in the safe didn't look like failure. It looked like a promise I could still keep slower. That was enough.